Hi, and welcome everyone to our newest Facebook Live event. This time we're discussing strategies to get the most out of a probate record. My name is Lindsay Fulton. I oversee all research and library services here at American Ancestors and the New England Historic Genealogical Society. I'll be moderating today's event. We are a nonprofit organization supported by members and donors. We provide resources and expertise in nearly all aspects of family history, and we are pleased to offer such programming for our members and friends around the world. I do want to note that we are, of course, broadcasting from home with various limitations and distractions. We apologize in advance if there are any interruptions from our end, and thank you for your patience. Even if we do lose connection, you will have access to a full recording on our Facebook page. Our speaker today is expert genealogist Ann Lawthers. Ann assists visitors in the American Ancestors world, both in the, well, when we're in the building, she does in the building, and online with their family history research. She's a graduate from Wellesley College and the Harvard School of Public Health with a master's and doctoral degree in health policy. With a long-term interest in history and family research and lectures frequently on behalf of American Ancestors, areas of interest include New England, New York, the Mid-Atlantic states, Southern colonies, Ireland, and migration patterns. Anne will lead today's discussion on how to get the most out of a probate record, which will teach you how to use all of those interesting items within a probate packet. After Anne's short presentation, we will have time for questions from the audience. If you think of a question during today's discussion, please type it into the comments section and we will get to as many as we can in the allotted time. Okay, so without further ado, take it away, Anne.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the world of probate. Probate records are invaluable to the genealogical researcher, but they can be a bit scary as there are so many pieces involved in the probate record. So what is probate? Probate basically is the process of settling an estate after a person dies, and that process can generate quite a lot of paper. Today, I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples of probate and show you how to get the most information out of each piece in the file. Most of my examples will be from American Ancestors, but I will conclude with one example from Family Search. Now, before we get started, or before you get started looking for probate, you need at least 3 pieces of information. You need a name, you need an approximate date of death, not the month and the day, but the year. And you need the county where the person died. These 3 are the key to helping you find your ancestors' probate. So let's start our search by looking at the probate of Mr. Noah Mott, who died in 1806 in Haverstraw, Rockland County, New York. Now, I am going to show you how to search using our web page, and we're not going to use the regular search all databases box. We're going to go down here to something called browse databases, because when you're dealing with probate, it often makes more sense to go directly to the probate records rather than winnowing down what comes up in a regular search. So my computer is thinking, and when the search page comes up, you'll see that there's a box in the middle of the page that says search by database name. Now, we are interested in New York, and we have several different databases, but I'm going to put New York wills in here. Now, what this does is it focuses or filters the databases. So the one that we are interested in is going to be this second one, New York Abstracts of Wills, Administrations, and Guardianships. And I'm going to click on that, and it will take me to what I consider a standard search page. So I'm going to put in the first name, which was Noah. I'm going to put in the last name, which was Mott, and I'm going to leave the rest of it blank, okay? Less is often more when you're searching. If you haven't discovered that already, now's the time to take that under advisement. If you put too much information into your search box, you'll end up with a big fat nothing. Okay, so if you recall that I said we're looking for Noah Mott, died 1806 in Rockland County, New York. Lo and behold, there are a couple of Noah Motts. Who knew? In New York. But fortunately, the very first one is the guy we want, Noah, who died in 1806. I am not going to click on the image right away, but whenever you see a camera sign or icon on our website, it means that there's an image you can look at. But what I want to show you first is if you want to know more about a particular database, don't click on the image first, go to the underlined name, and you come to a page that gives you sort of the summary of what you will be looking at, and then describes the database. It also gives you a nice handy citation that you can write down and keep with your records. Interestingly, this particular database is a compilation created by someone named, and get this name, William Appleby Daniel Erdley. That's a mouthful, but it's very useful because this also shows you what counties are involved in this particular database. So now I'm going to click on View and actually take a look at the image. When my computer decides that it would like to tell me about it. Oh, you do need to be logged in before you can look at any of the images. I should have said that at the beginning. You'll see up at the top of my page, it says Welcome Anne, showing that I am logged in. So here we have an abstract of the, let's see, did I click on the wrong one again? Looks like I did. So now I'm going to go back because that is not Nicholas Mott, that's Charles Mott. I'm sorry, it's not Noah Mott. Okay, Noah Mott 1806. Looks like it's the right one. Okay, let's try that again. All right, so, okay. Well, it didn't take me to the page that I wanted, but what I do want to tell you about is that in this particular database, they've grouped the pieces of information about depending on whether or not someone was intestate, that is, whether or not they died without making a will, or whether they died testate, making a will. So, okay, here's the problem. All right. And if it doesn't work this time, we're just going to move on. So Mr. Noah Mott died without making a will. So his description is in a section of these books that says intestate, but once again, it's gone to someone else's. Interesting that this is happening. Okay, what I wanted to mention about an intestate record is that these abstracts, even though what we are mostly interested in looking at probate are the names that you would find in a will, even in an intestate record, you can find useful genealogical information. What should have come up would have been a page that said administration of, and it would have given the date that Mr. Mott's estate was probated, and it also would have given the name of his wife. So useful information for the genealogist. So we have two types of probate, testate and intestate. And both kinds generate a lot of paperwork. We are now going to go to a different database. This one that we're going to is going to be for Worcester County, Massachusetts. The previous one was New York State, and it was abstracts as opposed to the full package. So this time, we're choosing a case that I know has a lot of paper. And I'll be able to show you how you can use these different types of paper that are part of a probate package. So this time, we are going to search for Worcester. And here it says, Worcester County, Massachusetts, Index to Probate Records. Let's start there, because when you're looking at probate, most of the time it's going to at least be a two-step process. First, you have to look up the name in an index and get information about a volume and page number or a docket number. And then secondly, you actually go to the probate pages. Here, we have maintained the index, but if I clicked on the fourth one down that says Worcester County Probate File Papers, I wouldn't have to go to the index, but I want to do this to illustrate the point. So here we have, coming up, a search page, Worcester County Index. This time, we are going to look for records of my fifth great grandmother, Deborah Grosvenor. And there we go, Deborah Grosvenor. Deborah Grosvenor died in Petersham in 1841. And what we are interested from the index is we want to know what her case number was. So see down here, we pulled up her record very first. You notice that here there's a documents icon. It means that there's not a picture we can look at of her will. It's an index-only database, but down here is the piece of information that we most need, which is the case number. So we're going to write that down, and then we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the screen where it showed the Worcester databases, and waiting for my computer. And there we go. Okay, so now we have Worcester County, Mass probate file papers. This is what I want. It takes me to a search page where I could have gone at the very beginning and I could have put Deborah Grosvenor in there, but then I would have missed all the fun of looking for her in the index. Now, the advantage of writing down the case number is that I can type it into this lovely box here that says case number. And as you can see, I've done that a few times today. So I'm going to now click search. And ta-da, we get Deborah Grosvenor, her entire file. So I am going to click on view image, and it will take me to the first page in the packet. Now, for those of you who have done any kind of probate research, you are probably well familiar with the fact that every single county does it differently. They all require slightly different paperwork. Part of it's based on law, part of it's based on the clerk who happens to be in charge over a span of years. And so for Worcester County, for this time period, these records have a face card. And the face card says her name, where she died from, and then it's got these three different types of probate records. The one that says admiral or administration is for someone who died intestate, that is without a will. She died with a will, gives the date. Then there's the guardianship, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So this is the cover for this particular record. Now we're going to go back up here and we're going to advance a page. This then is another cover sheet within. What you will find in lots of probate packets are these pages that are well folded, and they've been folded around the documents. And this particular piece of paper is around the documents of the petition. So I said a probate file has a lot of paper. The first thing that happens after a person dies is they go to the court and they make a petition to have a case admitted for probate. In this case, Cyrus P. Grosvenor and Moses G. Grosvenor make a petition to the probate court to admit Deborah Grosvenor's estate for probate. So it says they are the executors. Now here's a tip. Executors are often family members. And if you see an executor and you don't recognize the name, maybe you should spend some time investigating that person to figure out, are they related? In this case, Cyrus and Moses are the two eldest sons of Deborah Grosvenor. This particular piece of paper also says, and thou shalt make an inventory in the next 3 months. Then comes another piece of paper. This one is the bond. So in this case, we've got Cyrus Grosvenor and Moses Grosvenor. And here's the fun part. It tells us that Cyrus Grosvenor here, Worcester in the county of Worcester, and Moses Grosvenor of Medfield in the county of Norfolk. So we now know the places of residence of these two individuals. And we've got two other people, William Draper and S.H. Colton of Worcester. Now, when you put up a bond, it's to ensure that you are going to execute your responsibilities in good faith and take care of a particular estate. So Cyrus and Moses and William and S.H. were required to put up a bond of $1,000 to probate the estate of Deborah. Now the next is what this court is calling a notice to prove the will. Now, most of the time when you see the statement of proof of a will, it comes right after the will itself. You know, the will signed, and then on the very next page you see something that says, then came to whatever the court was, Cyrus P. Grosvenor and Moses G. Grosvenor, and made representations on the holy evangels, etc., that the will was a true will and that the deceased had made the will when they were in sound mind and they were doing it of their free will. So this one is dated November 15th, 1841, probably very shortly after she died. And it says that the will be examined at the first Tuesday session in January. Now, I believe I mentioned the word prove. Proving means that the witnesses to a will go to the court and testify that this is true. Now, courts, early courts tended to meet quarterly, so every 3 months. So if someone died in July and the will was not admitted until, say, September, because that's when the court was meeting, you would know that the person had died in the previous 3 months. This is helpful when we can't find a death date. If you've got a date of a probate packet, pretty darn sure that it's going to be the person died in the previous 3 months. So as I mentioned, having a will is something that we really are very interested in as genealogists. And Deborah's is a gold mine because in Deborah's will, She is the widow of Daniel Grosvenor of Petersham. Going down, going down. She begins to name her children, her grandchildren, and for me, the best part was things like, okay, to my son, Jonathan P. Grosvenor, $100. To my daughter, Eunice Douglas, wife of Jeremiah Douglas. Oh, I love it when married names are included in a will. $1. And to my granddaughter, Deborah H.G. Curtis, wife of Erastus Curtis, one feather bed and bedstead with an underbed. So it's giving the married names of her children, a genealogical gold mine indeed. Okay, let me just move some things so I can click on. Then this particular will was actually made in March, but it wasn't admitted to the courts until January of 1842. So as I mentioned, usually when you see a will, the very next thing you see is, and then came so-and-so and so-and-so. What this court did is they had a pre-printed form and they said the instrument hereto annexed for Deborah Grosvenor has been admitted. And Daniel R. Grosvenor, one of the witnesses to the will, is testifying to the fact that it's a true will. And we also see the names of the other two witnesses, Jabez Stratton and Irana Grosvenor. Now, I had no idea who Irana Grosvenor was because she wasn't my direct line. Turns out she's the wife of David Grosvenor. So it pays to look at the names of the witnesses and note them down to make sure that you know their relationship to the deceased. Now, this particular packet pretty much ends here, but I do want to show you a packet with an inventory and a listing of debts, because those can also be helpful to you as a genealogist. So I'm going to go back to our search page, back to Worcester, because Mr. Phineas Carter also died in Worcester. I'm going to skip the index phase. I'm going to go right to the probate file page. I am going to put in his case number, which I looked up earlier, 471, and I'm going to click search. So here we have Mr. Phineas Carter. Now, this is also the county of Worcester. But for this particular packet, for whatever reason, the pages are in a very different order than the pages were in Deborah Grosvenor's packet. Okay, so for example, the first thing that we see is the summary of the inventory, how much cash there was, the number of notes on hand, cash, how much the real estate was worth, how much the personal estate. Usually we see that a bit later in a packet, but it does have what I wanted to show you, which is the inventory. We'll skip that page. Okay, here we have the inventory of Mr. Phineas Carter. Oftentimes the inventory will not give us the names that we are necessarily looking for, but it is helpful to read through it because it gives you a very good sense of the life that your ancestor led. So here, Mr. Phineas Carter has one cow worth $18, a fallow cow worth 12, another cow worth 17, a 2-year heifer worth 12, etc. He was doing all right for himself. Now, as an indication of how all right he was doing, his inventory continued and filled up another whole page. But it's the last page that I'm interested in. So here it is, the amount brought forward. So all the personal estate was $224. Cash consisting of notes, $112. And then these are people who owed money to Phineas Carter. And the one that I'm interested in is Otis Carter. Otis Carter owed him $82. That's a pretty hefty sum. And then there's an Asa Langley who also owed him a bunch of money, $60. What was the relationship of these two men to our deceased? So it does pay for you to take a look at every single page in the packet and check out various relationships. You want to make a note of the names that you find. Now I'm going to go to a different type of probate file. This one is going to be a guardianship file. It's going to be a different county. It's going to be Essex County. And we want the Essex County probate file papers. And then let's see. I have a number. Yes, I do. It's for Mr. Elijah Weed, and he died about 1821, so I'll put that in there. We hit search and we find, oh, we have two hits for him, same year, 1823. First one says, ooh, he died intestate, and it's the second one that we actually are interested in. It's a guardianship. So here we have a couple of pages related to the guardianship of the children of Elijah B. Weed. In the first page, we see that Thomas White of Amesbury, gentleman, it is asking that a guardian be appointed for Elijah Bagley Weed, aged 12, Hannah Weed, aged 10, and Anna Weed, aged 8. Now, when a child reached the age of 14 years, they could choose their own guardian. But at the time of their father's death, they were all rather young. And so Mr. Thomas Wood is asking that he be made guardian of these children. Now, the next piece of paper is, yes, fine. Thomas Wood, gentleman, as principal, and then Jonah Morse, Esquire, Daniel Weed, gentleman, all of Amesbury, and they are putting up $2,000 as bond to be the guardian for these children. Now, the one thing I find interesting about this particular packet is the guardian, Mr. Weed, was religious about making an accounting of the money that was spent on the children. You don't find this very often, but it could be very helpful. So here we have for the child Elijah Bagley Wood, and the amount that Weed spent on Elijah. So the first part is income that Elijah got as a minor. So the guardian is accounting for the money coming in. And down here is what he expended on the minor. One pair of trousers. But then it's also items for the upkeep of the farm. So Daniel Weed for grass feed. We've got for ditching the salt marsh. Things that need to keep a farm in working order so that when Elijah reaches his full majority of 21, there will be something for him to actually own. So I went through this entire packet, and it goes all the way up to 1832. So well beyond what Elijah needed for his guardianship. He could have changed his guardian at age 14, but apparently he didn't. Okay, now the final thing that I want to show you is not so much about the papers that are in a packet, but rather how to find the packet. Many of you may be frustrated by the indexing systems that various courthouses use to file away their papers. I'm going to show you the indexing system used in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. It's a very popular indexing system, and you will find it all over Pennsylvania, not only in terms of probate, but you'll also find it in terms of land records. So we're going to go to search. We're not searching records. We are going to the catalog. And once we get to the catalog page, we're going to type into the place page. We're going to type in Pennsylvania. I have to talk to myself or I misspell things like crazy. The state and then the county. And we accept what Family Search comes up for us. Because if we don't accept something they come up with, we'll end up with nothing. So here we have everything that the Family History Library has either in their building or online about Mercer County, Pennsylvania. And in this case, we're going to go down here to probate records. We are going to be looking for the probate for John Wiley Stinson, who died in 1867. He was a Civil War soldier, but I don't think he died of wounds from his Civil War service, because his Civil War service was actually quite short, and it was in 1863. Okay, so as I said, what you see is going to be a mix of materials that are hard copy in Salt Lake and digital materials. So I'm going to, first of all, click on the Orphans Court, and it takes me to a page where it says, in red, Pennsylvania probate records are available online. Oh, goody. Click here, which I do. So then the next page says, how would you like to browse through 3.2 million images? And you think, and I think, no, thank you. But I will click on that link, because what it brings me to is a page where I can then select the county, and I'm going to select Mercer, and it shows the various files that are available to look at. Now, we are looking for probate. See, there are two types of indexes here. There's an estate index and there's a proceedings index. We know his last name, we know the year he died, but we don't know what volume might be in play here. So we really do need to go over here to these estate indexes. His last name is Stinson. We're going to hit S. And that takes us to the first image in the film. Now, here comes the fun. A lot of Pennsylvania counties use a system known as the LMNRT indexing system. What it does is you take the last name or the surname of the person, and you look for which one of these letters is the next one in the name. Is it LMNRT? Well, Stinson. T is the next letter. Then we look over at this given name column, and we're looking for a John, so J. Now I go over here, J to T, 95. So I am looking for a page that says 95 at the top. When you are browsing through images, keep in mind that if you type 95 up here into the image, you're not going to end up at page 95. You're going to end up somewhere else. So in this case, I'm going to save you the work, and we're going to go to image 119, where it says barely 95, page 1. Now, another feature of this kind of index is that most of the information is down below, but sometimes they ran out of space. So they put certain surnames further on in their index. And in this case, we can see Stinson J is actually on page 253. So I know now that page 253 is actually image 238. I am going to go there and ta-da, we get to the Stinsons. So Stinson, John W. Hempfield Township, that's right. Sarah was his wife, and here are his minor children at that time. But the information we want is over here where it says Proceedings Index. Oh, good. So this will tell me where I look in the Proceedings Index. So I need to look at volume 17, page 211, and then this last column is block 9. All right, let's go back to the Mercer page. So now we know we are Proceedings Index, volume 17. I'm going to click on that. Now, the particular page we want is going to be page 211. And you see that they've got blocks and they're numbered. So we want block number 9. One thing I like about these proceeding indexes is that you can accidentally find relatives simply because of the way the indexing took place. The Stinsons are all together. Different death dates. So for example, let's see, we've got, there's no death date here. James Stinson, 1834, but we're interested in John Wiley Stinson. And it shows us that the sale of estate, proof of contract, and final accounting, they're all in Orphan Court Records, Volume H, and it gives the page number. Now, these other pieces of information, they exist and they are at the courthouse, but they have not been transcribed into a book that we can look at. So the letters of administration and the bond, we're not going to find that. We'd have to go to the courthouse. The inventory made in January of 1867, we're not going to find that online. It's at the courthouse. Now, the properties set aside for the widow, we could find Orphans Court, Volume H, page 418. But then down here, interestingly, we've got page 401. So why would they have it out of order like that? One would say to oneself, I need to take a look at this. So now we're going to go back to the Mercer records and we're going to look at the Orphans Court records, and lo and behold, we see, ooh, they only go to Volume H. So his final settlement was in Volume K. That's not available online, but this is. So let's see. I didn't write down the image number for this, but it was page 401 that I wanted. 401. Oh, I'm going to take a bet that it's going to be about half that. Didn't guess right. So I got up to 313. Let's try 220. I'm not doing well here. 250. 413, I went too far. Although one of the pages we were interested in was 418. But let's go back down here to 401. And so this shows us that at the January court in 1867, at the Orphans Court, there was related to the administration of J.W. Stinson. If I didn't know that's what the name was, it would have been good luck reading it. Filing a bond, and this describes property that is being put up as surety for the bond. So I think that pretty much ends my breeze through of probate records. I will leave this up and running in case you've got questions that require me to go to either Family Search or American Ancestors.
Thank you, Anne. That was great. I know a lot of us are, never really. We're always a little afraid to jump into the world of probate because it can be a little complicated, especially those indexes. That always gets me every time. So thanks for walking us through that. We did have a few questions from the audience. One was from Beverly. Beverly was asking whether probate was filed where the person died or the county of their residence at the time of death. If they died away from home, or was it both?
Sometimes it can be both, and it would also depend on whether or not someone had property in a different county. So for example, there was a Philadelphia case that I recently looked at where the individual died in Philadelphia and her probate, the first transcription, the first layout of it is in Philadelphia, but it's also in New Jersey. And it turns out that she had property in Monmouth, New Jersey. So her record was recorded both places. Usually it's where you died because that's usually where your regular residence is, unless there are barriers to having it or extenuating reasons. But the courts would figure it out among themselves because after all, there are taxes to be had on an estate. And you look at enough probate records and what gets captured, and you realize they're doing this so that we can get our tax dollar, not so much to be useful to genealogists. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So actually, before we move to another page, I'm going to skip ahead to a question that Sandy has about the LM.
Yep. RT.
LMNRT system. They said, can you go over that again? Can you
Sure.
one more time?
Okay, so this is the orphan court dockets. Yeah, let's go to the estate index. I mean, really, this is like an index of an index of an index. The first time you encounter it, you go, really? Does it have to be that hard? It's like, okay, so if a county is using this kind of index, names are not going to be strictly alphabetically arranged. One of the easier indexing systems is where all the S's are grouped together, and then you have all the first names of Arthur, Abijah, Abraham, etc. And then you have S's and all the B's, the Benjamins, etc. That one you can figure out pretty well. This one, no. You need to use this index because the company that sold this indexing had these pre-printed pages so that, let's take my last name. Actually, it's probably a really bad idea because I'm a key letter. Lawthers, L-A-W. I guess I'd be under L, and then my first name is A for 11. For my husband, who's a Higgins, H is the first letter of the surname, but then you don't have any key letters until you get to the N in Higgins. His first name is John, so if I was looking for his probate, N, John, page 93, and these pages are specific to the first letter of the last name. So if you have a name, I'm afraid I'm going to lose you all because it's so convoluted. This index appears no matter what the first letter of the surname is. If you had Stinson or Peter, where again you'd have a P as the first initial and then T as the second letter in the index, it would be 15 under the P's and 15 under the S's. Why did that have to be so hard? Okay. So for Stinson, I was looking, I'm going to look within the S's, and then within the S's, I'm going to look for page 95 because STINSON, the very first one of these key letters that comes up after S is the T. So I start by looking at the T column. Then I have to check out what the first name was. If the first name was Benjamin Stinson or David Stinson, I would have looked on different pages. I would have looked at page 45, or I would have looked at page 25. Clear as mud, I know.
Thank you, Anne. Appreciate that. Okay, so we had a few questions about guardianships, and I'm going to combine the questions together that both Terry and Nancy had. I think Nancy's going to cover Terry's question. So Nancy is asking, in the guardianship you shared, was the mother deceased, and that's why someone else was named the guardian?
You can't tell. And I didn't do the background research to determine whether the mother was deceased. Given that the children were as young as they were, the natural thing would have been to leave them with the mother, and then if the mother remarried, the new husband would often become the guardian. So it's possible that yes, the mother was also deceased. I don't know. Okay. I can't.
So would women have to file for their own guardianships of their own children?
No.
Okay. Okay, great. So that I think covers
because guardianship is about managing the finances. Okay. It's about the money. And for so long, women's legal rights were wrapped up in her husband's. So anything that the husband did with the money, the woman benefited, femme couvert. The woman was covered by the man. So we're dealing with, the guardianship is really about money.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. So in that vein, Yvonne asks, do you know whether persons who were put to death or, given life sentences, were they allowed to make a last will?
I don't know. I've never been asked that question.
So if I can jump in and answer,
please do.
I've seen a few instances where that did occur, because they as long as they kept their property, then the estate would have still been need to have settled. So them creating a will would have been possible. I would say that if you have an ancestor that was potentially put to death or given a life sentence, I would still look for a probate record for that individual. I think that doesn't necessarily disqualify them from probate. But very good question and interesting question. I don't think we've gotten that one before. So now there's a technical question from Celia. She's asking if we're downloading a document starting with that first page. So like you were showing with the probate packets, if we're starting with that case file, do you have to download each page individually, or can you do it as a packet?
Alas, it's a page at a time. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I don't think we've changed
I know that's true on Family Search. Ancestors, yeah. We have the print range.
Right, but I don't.
You can download it as a
PDF.
Yep. Yeah.
So if you print to a PDF, let's say, but I haven't tried this, so it's start page. Let's say I wanted to print the next 3 pages to a PDF. I'm just going to have you all be my guinea pigs. And I'm going to go to page 8, and it's going to hopefully show a print dialog box, and one of my options, I hope, will be to a PDF. I do apologize. The internet and in my neck of the woods has been kind of slow today, and it's as witness some of the earlier glitches. Well, this could take too long, so I don't know. Yeah. In theory, it should work.
Yes. I've done it before. I've been able to go to print range and then put the pages in that I'd like to do, and then when it gives you the print option, you could just go to save to PDF, and that works. And it's worked in the past. So
yeah, my screen's not working. Sorry.
No worries. So Catherine has a question, another question about the widow. Do you know if the woman has any say in what she receives in her widow's dower?
She has the right to 1/3 of the property, and sometimes you will see that before the estate is inventoried, the land is set off for the widow. Sometimes you will see the widow renouncing her dower rights, but that would typically be if she's remarried, and in that case they often lose their dower rights at that point.
Okay, got you. So a few more questions to round this out. One from Angela is it possible for the family of the deceased not to file for administration of intestate or execute a will?
Yes, although if there's any property at all, the county is going to figure it out eventually and come after you for the taxes. So yes, a family could potentially not file, but I don't think they'd get away with it.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, we've found many situations where there just isn't, there isn't a probate record for someone.
That typically happens when there's no property.
Yeah. Or if they had land, they might have been smart enough to give it away before they die.
Right. My 6th great grandfather did that. He gave away all his land to his second wife's kids before he died. And so when he died, there was nothing to probate.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so one final question from Catherine is, people who die in debt, would there be somewhere that you would find a list of who bought the auctioned items in the official case?
Yes, you would, or you should. And you will also see a list of who money was owed to by the estate. And then a page or two later, you should see who bought it. Great. With names, which is what we like.
That's always great. Yeah, with the names, exactly. Well, great, thank you. And those were excellent questions. Thank you everyone for typing those into the chat. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Anne, for your time today talking about probate records.
My pleasure.
So thanks everyone for joining us. Before you leave the event, please leave your thoughts in the comment section to give us your feedback. As we continue to expand our Facebook Live events and online offerings, any and all feedback is extremely helpful and appreciated. Our next Facebook Live event will be about the unique databases on AmericanAncestors.org. So if you needed more reasons why we are better than those other large websites, please attend this event. It is scheduled for January 22nd, again from 3 to 4 East Coast time. In this presentation, you will hear about all of the one-of-a-kind databases and resources that we have here at American Ancestors that can help you to further your family history research. And if you'd like to engage with us even more on social media, we have a Twitter chat that happens every Tuesday afternoon. We're taking a break for the holiday season, but we're going to be back on January 5th. We're talking about a topic that everyone loves, which is writing and publishing your family history. We're trying to see if you can make good on those New Year's resolutions. Finally, if you'd like to access more how-to resources or learn about upcoming online education programs, please visit our online learning center, americanancestors.org/education. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you at our online programs in the future. Goodbye for now.
Take care.